The metallic taste of blood filled my mouth as I struggled to focus on the face in front of me. 3 figures swam in my vision, then merged into one. A man in an expensive suit whose smile didn't reach his cold eyes. "You have 3 seconds," he said, his voice unnervingly calm. "Who left you with a concussion?" My head throbbed where it had struck the marble floor. The chandeliers above blurred into halos of light, and I could feel something warm trickling down my temple. I tried to remember how I'd gotten here, to this opulent office that smelled of leather and cigar smoke, but the memories scattered like frightened birds every time I reached for them. I don't know what you're talking about." His hand moved so fast I barely registered it before his fingers gripped my chin, forcing me to look directly at him. Not violently, but with enough pressure to make his point. This was a man who didn't need to raise his voice to be terrifying. 1 second gone, sweetheart. 2 more, and I start making assumptions. You won't like what I assume. My name is Emma Richardson, and until 6 hours ago, I was just an art appraiser living a quiet life in Boston. I authenticated paintings for wealthy collectors, sipped wine at gallery openings, and called my mother every Sunday. The most dangerous thing in my world was accidentally offending a temperamental artist. Then I received a call about a private collection that needed immediate evaluation. The pay was extraordinary, enough to finally put a down payment on the studio space I'd been dreaming about. The address led me to an estate that looked like it had been transplanted from a European countryside. All stone walls and manicured gardens, sitting incongruously among the modern buildings of the city's outskirts. I should have known better. I should have asked more questions. 2 seconds. "Please," I whispered, my voice shaking. "I was hired to look at paintings. I came in through the east entrance like I was told. I was walking toward the gallery when someone grabbed me from behind. I didn't see their face. I just remember pain, and then waking up here with you standing over me." His eyes narrowed, studying me with an intensity that made me feel transparent. This was Lucas Ashford, though I didn't know it yet, the man who controlled half the underground economy of New England from behind a facade of legitimate business ventures. A man whose name was whispered in certain circles with equal parts fear and reverence. "You expect me to believe," he said slowly, "that you just happened to be in the east wing of my house, 20 feet from my private vault, by coincidence? Your house?" The words came out as barely a breath. I thought this was the Carlyle estate. Something flickered across his face. Surprise, maybe, or calculation. His grip on my chin loosened slightly. The Carlyle estate was bought out 3 years ago. His voice had changed, lost some of its sharp edge. "Who hired you?" "A man named Robert. Robert something. He called my office yesterday, said he had an urgent job." My head was clearing slightly, though the pain remained a constant throb behind my eyes. "He sent a car for me, gave me an access code for the east entrance. He said the collection was in the gallery wing, and that the owner preferred discretion." Lucas released my face and stood, turning away from where I sat crumpled on his floor. He was tall, probably 6'2", with dark hair that was just starting to show silver at the temples. His suit probably cost more than my car, and he wore it like armor. "Marcus," he said, his voice carrying across the room. A door I hadn't noticed opened, and another man entered. Where Lucas radiated controlled power, this man was pure violence barely contained. Broad-shouldered, with a scar running from his eyebrow to his cheek, he looked like he'd been carved from granite and taught to fight before he could walk. "Yes, sir? Call Donovan. Tell him I need to know everything about a man named Robert who's been impersonating art dealers. And get Dr. Hayes up here. Miss," he paused, looking back at me expectantly. "Richardson. Emma Richardson. Miss Richardson needs medical attention." Marcus nodded and disappeared as silently as he'd arrived. Lucas walked to a bar cart and poured amber liquid into 2 glasses. He returned and handed one to me. "Drink. It'll help with the pain." I took the glass with shaking hands, the crystal cold against my palms. "I don't understand what's happening. Why would someone do this? Use me like this?" "Because you're perfect," Lucas said, and there was something almost like admiration in his tone. No criminal record, legitimate business, good reputation. You're exactly the kind of person who could get through security without raising flags. Someone used you as a distraction, Miss Richardson. While my men were busy verifying your credentials and wondering why an art appraiser was wandering my halls, someone else was likely attempting to access something they shouldn't. The whiskey burned going down, but he was right. It did help. The warmth spread through my chest, pushing back some of the cold fear that had settled there. I'm so sorry. I had no idea. Of course you didn't. He sat in the chair across from me, his movements precise and controlled. That's what makes you valuable to them. Your ignorance is authentic. A knock at the door announced the arrival of Dr. Hayes, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and steady hands. She examined me with professional efficiency, shining lights in my eyes and asking questions about my symptoms. Mild concussion, she confirmed. Nothing that won't heal. But she shouldn't be alone for the next 24 hours. Someone needs to monitor her, wake her every few hours. I can call my roommate, I offered. She can pick me up. No. Lucas's voice was firm. You're staying here. I'm what? He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, fixing me with those intense eyes. Whoever did this knows where you live, knows your schedule, has your phone number. They've already proven they're willing to use you as a pawn, and they've failed in whatever they were attempting. That makes you a loose end, Miss Richardson. A liability, and people like the ones we're dealing with don't leave loose ends untied. The fear that had been simmering in my chest erupted into full panic. What are you saying? That I'm in danger? But I don't know anything. I can't identify anyone. They don't know that. And even if they did, you've seen this house. You can place me here at a specific time. You're a witness to their failure. His expression softened slightly. I'm not saying this to frighten you. I'm stating facts. You're safer here, under my protection, until we figure out who's behind this and what they were really after. Dr. Hayes packed up her bag. I'll check on her in the morning, make sure she drinks plenty of water and gets rest. She paused at the door, looking at Lucas with an expression I couldn't quite read. Be gentle, Luke. She's been through enough today. The use of his first name startled me. How many legitimate doctors made house calls for men like him? After she left, silence settled over the room like dust. I could hear a clock ticking somewhere, marking off seconds of my life that had suddenly become infinitely more complicated. I don't even know who you are, I said quietly. Not really. What kind of man has a vault that people try to break into? What kind of business requires this level of security? Lucas smiled, but it was sad somehow, weary. The kind of business my father built, and his father before him. The kind that operates in shadows and deals with people who understand only power and fear. I'm not going to lie to you and pretend I'm something I'm not. I've done things that would horrify you, but I've also kept order in this city, prevented wars that would have spilled innocent blood in the streets. You're a criminal. I'm a businessman operating in a market that exists whether people acknowledge it or not. Drugs, weapons, information. These things will be bought and sold with or without me. I simply ensure it happens with rules, with consequences for those who would prey on the vulnerable. I should have been terrified. Every instinct should have been screaming at me to run. But there was something in his eyes, something wounded and defiant all at once, that made me pause. The paintings, I said suddenly. You really do have a collection, don't you? I saw them when I first came in. A Morisot, 2 Degas, what looked like an early Cassatt. His eyebrows rose. You recognize them from a glance? It's my job. It's what I love. I set down the empty whiskey glass. The Morisot especially. Woman at her toilette, if I'm not mistaken. 1875. It's extraordinary. My mother's favorite, he said softly. She died when I was 14. Cancer. I've been collecting the artists she loved ever since. There it was, a glimpse of the human beneath the armor. A boy who lost his mother and spent decades trying to keep her close through art and memory. Marcus reappeared in the doorway. "Sir, we have a situation." Lucas's entire demeanor changed, the softness evaporating like morning dew. "What kind of situation?" "Donovan's not responding. His apartment is empty. Looks like he left in a hurry. His men say he hasn't checked in since this afternoon, right before Miss Richardson arrived." The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Lucas stood slowly, his face carved from ice. "Donovan." He said the name like a curse. "How long has he been with us?" 12 years, sir, since the Marino situation." "And who vouched for him?" Marcus's expression darkened. "I did." "Sir?" The tension between them was thick enough to choke on. I found myself holding my breath, afraid to move, afraid to draw attention to my presence in the middle of whatever was unfolding. Lucas walked to the window, staring out at the grounds that were slowly surrendering to dusk. He knew the security rotations, knew the codes, knew exactly when to send our innocent art appraiser through the east entrance. "Sir, I take full responsibility." "I don't want your responsibility, Marcus. I want him found. I want to know who he's working for and why. And I want it done before sunrise." He turned back, and his face was terrible to behold. 12 years. 12 years of loyalty. Or what we thought was loyalty. How many secrets has he sold? How many operations has he compromised? Marcus nodded once and vanished again, moving with surprising speed for a man his size. I cleared my throat softly. The man who hit me. Could it have been this Donovan? Lucas looked at me as if he'd forgotten I was there. "Describe what you remember. Everything, no matter how small." I closed my eyes, trying to pull the memories back into focus, despite the throbbing in my head. It happened fast. I heard footsteps behind me, turned, and saw a shape. Then someone grabbed me. Strong, much stronger than me. I remember cologne, something expensive. And a ring, I think. It caught the light as they raised their hand. A heavy ring, maybe gold, with something dark set in it. Donovan wears his father's ring. Gold, with an onyx stone. Lucas's voice was barely above a whisper. He wouldn't take it off even when I told him it was impractical for our line of work. "I'm sorry," I said, not knowing what else to offer. "Betrayal it's a special kind of pain." He looked at me then, really looked at me, and I felt stripped bare under his gaze. "You speak from experience." It wasn't a question, but I answered anyway. "My ex-husband. He embezzled from the gallery where I worked, made it look like I was involved. I lost my job, my reputation, nearly lost my license. Took me 3 years to clear my name and rebuild." "But you did rebuild." "I didn't have a choice. When you're at the bottom, the only direction left is up." A ghost of a smile crossed his face. "I'm beginning to understand why they chose you. You're stronger than you look, Miss Richardson. Emma. If I'm going to be staying in your house, you should call me Emma." "Emma," he repeated, and the way he said my name made something flutter in my chest. "I'm Lucas, though I suppose you've figured that out by now." The sun was setting in earnest now, painting the room in shades of amber and gold. In this light, Lucas looked less like a criminal mastermind, and more like a man carrying the weight of too many worlds on his shoulders. "What happens now?" I asked. "Now I show you to a guest room. You rest. You heal. And tomorrow we figure out how to keep you alive long enough to return to your normal life." He extended his hand to help me up. I hesitated for just a moment before taking it. His grip was warm, solid, and when he pulled me to my feet, I stumbled slightly. He caught me, one arm steadying me at the waist. "Easy. The concussion's going to affect your balance for a while." We were close enough that I could smell his cologne, cedar and something darker, more complex. Close enough that I could see the tiny scar above his left eyebrow, the flecks of green in his blue eyes. "Thank you," I managed, for believing me. "I've interrogated enough liars to know the truth when I hear it." Your fear was real. Your confusion was real. His thumb traced a gentle circle on my waist before he released me, stepping back. Come on, Mrs. Chen will have prepared a room by now. He guided me through hallways that seemed to stretch forever, past rooms filled with artwork that would make any curator weep with envy. Despite everything, the fear, the pain, the absolute insanity of my situation, I couldn't help but notice the careful curation, the way each piece complemented the others. You have excellent taste, I said. Whoever advised you on these acquisitions knew what they were doing. That would be me. There was a hint of pride in his voice. My mother taught me to see beauty, to understand the stories paintings tell. It's one of the few pure things in my life. We stopped at a door near the end of the east wing. He pushed it open to reveal a bedroom that looked like something from a luxury hotel. Plush carpet, a 4-poster bed with cream-colored linens, French doors opening onto a private balcony. There are clothes in the closet that should fit. Mrs. Chen keeps the guest rooms stocked. Bathrooms through there. If you need anything, there's a phone by the bed. Just dial 0 and someone will answer. I stepped inside, overwhelmed by the strange turn my life had taken. Lucas? He paused in the doorway. Yes? Why are you being kind to me? I'm a liability, like you said. Wouldn't it be easier to just, I don't know, pay me off and send me away? His expression grew distant. Easier, yes. But I stopped taking easy paths a long time ago. You were hurt because of my war, my world. That makes you my responsibility. And I protect what's mine. The way he said mine sent a shiver down my spine. Not fear, but something else entirely. Besides, he added, his voice lighter, you're the first person in years who's looked at my collection and actually understood it. That's worth protecting all by itself. He closed the door, and I was alone. I walked to the French doors and looked out over the grounds. The sun had fully set now, and lights were coming on across the estate like earthbound stars. Somewhere out there, a man who'd pretended loyalty for 12 years was running, and I was at the center of whatever storm was coming. I should have been planning my escape. Instead, I found myself thinking about the sadness in Lucas's eyes when he mentioned his mother, the careful way he'd touched my face, the warmth of his hand at my waist. This was madness. This was dangerous. This was the most alive I'd felt in years. I woke to darkness and the sound of shouting. For a moment, I didn't remember where I was, and panic seized my chest. Then the memories flooded back. The concussion, Lucas, the betrayal. The shouting grew louder. I grabbed the robe I'd found in the closet and crept to my door, opening it a crack. Down the hall, light spilled from Lucas's office. I could hear his voice, cold and furious, and another voice I didn't recognize, pleading. I had no choice. They have my sister. They said they'd kill her if I didn't cooperate. Everyone has a choice, Donovan. You chose to betray 12 years of brotherhood for what? For family? You think the rest of us don't have families? You think I don't understand what it means to protect the people you love? Please, Lucas, please, let me explain. You put an innocent woman in danger. You compromised our security. You made me question every man who stood beside me. What explanation could possibly justify that? I should have stayed in my room. I should have closed the door and pretended I heard nothing. Instead, I found myself walking toward that office, drawn by something I couldn't name. Marcus stood outside the door, his face grim. He saw me approach and shook his head slightly, a warning. I ignored it and pushed past him into the office. Lucas stood over a man kneeling on the floor, Donovan, presumably. Blood dripped from Donovan's nose, and one eye was already swelling shut. Marcus must have found him and brought him back by force. Emma, go back to your room, Lucas said without looking at me. He said they have his sister. I stepped closer, my heart pounding. Is that true? Donovan's eyes met mine, desperate and defeated. They took her 3 weeks ago. Said they'd let her go if I helped them get into Lucas's vault. Said all I had to do was create a distraction, let their man slip in during the confusion. I swear, I didn't know they'd hurt you. I just needed to save my sister. Lucas's hand was on his gun. I could see it resting in the holster at his hip. And the way his fingers flexed toward it told me exactly where this was heading. "Lucas, wait!" My voice surprised me with its steadiness. "If they have his sister, doesn't that mean she's still leverage? Doesn't that mean they'll try again? That's his problem now. He should have come to me. I could have helped. Instead, he chose betrayal. He chose love." The words came out before I could stop them. He chose wrong, made a terrible mistake, but he did it because someone threatened the person he loves most. Can you honestly say you wouldn't do the same? That you wouldn't burn the world down for the people you care about? The room went silent. Lucas finally looked at me, and what I saw in his eyes made my breath catch. Anger, yes, but also recognition. Understanding. "You don't know what you're asking," he said quietly. "I'm asking you to be the man who collects art his mother loved. The man who protected a stranger because it was the right thing to do. I'm asking you to be better than the world expects you to be." Donovan was staring at me like I'd grown a second head. Marcus had moved closer, as if ready to remove me bodily from the situation. But Lucas was looking at me like I was one of his paintings, something beautiful and rare that he was trying to understand. "If I let him live," Lucas said slowly, "if I help retrieve his sister, it sends a message. It says I'm weak. It says betrayal has no consequences. Or it says you're strong enough to be merciful, that you value the lives of the innocent over the satisfaction of revenge." I took another step closer. "What would your mother want you to do?" It was a low blow, invoking his dead mother, but I was fighting for a man's life, maybe for my own soul too, because I couldn't stand here and watch an execution, no matter what Donovan had done. Lucas was quiet for so long, I thought I'd failed. Then he holstered his gun and turned to Marcus. "Find out who took the sister, where they're keeping her. I want a full tactical plan by dawn." Marcus nodded, but not before I caught the flash of respect in his eyes, directed at me. Lucas walked to Donovan and pulled him to his feet. "You will tell us everything. Who contacted you, how they reached out, every detail. You will help us recover your sister. And then you will leave this city and never come back. You'll live, but you're dead to this family. Understand?" Donovan was crying now, ugly sobs of relief and shame. "Thank you. God, thank you. Don't thank me. Thank her." Lucas nodded toward me. "She saved your life tonight. Remember that when you're starting over somewhere far from here." Marcus led Donovan away, leaving Lucas and me alone in the office. The adrenaline that had carried me through the confrontation was fading, leaving me shaky and exhausted. "You shouldn't have interfered," Lucas said, but there was no heat in it. "Probably not, but I couldn't just stand by. You have a dangerous sense of justice, Emma Richardson," says the crime boss who's about to rescue his betrayer's sister. A laugh escaped him, genuine and surprised. "Is that what I'm about to do? I thought I was just preventing you from losing whatever remains of your faith in humanity. Maybe that too." He moved closer, and suddenly the room felt smaller. "You're not like anyone I've ever met. You walk into my world, get hurt because of my enemies, and somehow you end up saving the man who helped put you in danger. I don't want to be the kind of person who can watch someone die, even if they deserve it. Even if it would be easier." "Easier," he repeated, echoing our earlier conversation. "I told you I stopped taking easy paths." His hand came up to my face, gentle fingers tracing the bruise I knew was blooming at my temple. "Does it still hurt?" "A little, less than before." "I'm going to find who did this, who set all this in motion. And when I do..." He didn't finish the sentence, but he didn't need to. The promise of violence was clear in his eyes. "Lucas, you don't have to..." "Yes," he interrupted. "I do. They hurt you. They used you. They threatened my home and my family. There are rules, even in my world, and they broke them all. I'm not your responsibility." "You are." His thumb brushed across my cheek. "I claimed you the moment I decided you wouldn't leave this house. You're under my protection now, whether you want it or not." The words should have frightened me. Instead, they ignited something warm and dangerous in my chest. "I should go back to my room," I whispered, but I didn't move. "Yes, you should." Neither of us moved. We stood there in the lamplight, his hand still cradling my face, both of us breathing too fast. Then footsteps in the hall broke the spell. Lucas stepped back, his expression shuddering. "Get some rest. Tomorrow's going to be complicated." I fled to my room like a coward, my heart racing for reasons that had nothing to do with fear. The next morning, I woke to find a breakfast tray outside my door and a note in elegant handwriting. "Stay in your room until I come for you. L." I showered and changed into the clothes I found in the closet, expensive, casual wear that fits surprisingly well. Mrs. Chen clearly had a good eye. The breakfast was elaborate, fresh fruit, pastries, eggs prepared perfectly. I ate while staring out at the grounds, trying to process everything that had happened. Who was I becoming in this place? The Emma Richardson who existed 48 hours ago would never have confronted a crime boss, never have advocated for a traitor, never have felt her heart race at the touch of a dangerous man's hand. A knock at the door made me jump. "Come in." Marcus entered, looking more tired than I'd ever seen him. "Miss Richardson, Lucas wanted you to know we've located Donovan's sister. We're moving to extract her this afternoon." "Is he going himself?" "Of course. He always leads his own operations." The thought of Lucas walking into danger made my stomach clench. Will it be risky?" Marcus studied me with those keen eyes. "Every operation is risky, but Lucas is good at what he does. He'll come back." "You say that like you think I'm worried about him." "Aren't you?" I couldn't answer that. I didn't want to examine what it meant that the thought of Lucas in danger felt like ice in my veins. "Can I see him? Before he goes?" "He's in the armory. I'll take you." The armory was in the basement, a room that would have seemed at home in a military installation. Guns lined the walls, and a long table held equipment I couldn't begin to identify. Lucas stood at the table, checking a handgun with the ease of long practice. He'd changed into tactical gear, black pants and a fitted shirt that did nothing to hide the muscled frame beneath. "You wanted to see me?" he said without looking up. "I wanted to tell you to be careful." "Worried about me, Emma?" "Yes." The admission came easier than it should have. "I am, which is insane because I barely know you, and you're a criminal, and this whole situation is completely crazy." He finally looked up, and something in his expression made my breath catch. "What if I told you I feel the same? That I can't stop thinking about you, even though I have a dozen more important things to focus on? That I look at you and see something I didn't know I was missing?" I crossed to him, moving on instinct rather than thought. "Then I'd say we're both crazy." "Probably." His hand found my waist again, pulling me closer. "This is a terrible idea." "The worst?" "I could die today." "Don't say that." "I could die any day. That's the life I live. And if I'm going to die, I want to do this first." He kissed me. It wasn't gentle or tentative. It was fierce and claiming. A kiss that tasted like desperation and promise. His hand tangled in my hair while the other pulled me flush against him. I gripped his shirt, holding on like he was the only solid thing in a spinning world. When we finally broke apart, we were both breathing hard. "Come back safe," I whispered against his lips. "I will. I promise." He rested his forehead against mine, and when I do, we're going to talk about what this is, what you are to me. "What am I to you?" "Mine," he said simply. "If you'll have me." Before I could answer, Marcus cleared his throat from the doorway. "Sir, the team's ready." Lucas pulled back reluctantly. "Stay in the house. Don't go near the windows. Marcus will be here. If anything happens, you do exactly what he says. Understood?" "Understood. But Lucas, come back to me." He smiled, and it transformed his face. "Yes, ma'am." I watched him go, surrounded by armed men who moved with military precision. The house felt emptier with him gone, as if he'd taken all the warmth with him. Marcus found me in the library an hour later, staring at a book I wasn't reading. "He'll be fine," Marcus said. "I've seen him come back from worse." "How long have you worked for him?" 15 years. I was a mess when he found me, ex-military, couldn't hold down a job, drinking too much. He gave me purpose. Gave me a family. You love him. It wasn't a question. Like a brother. He's not what people think he is. He's not just some thug with a gun. He has rules, honor. He protects the neighborhood. Keeps the real monsters at bay. And what am I to him? Really? Marcus considered this. I've never seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you. It's like you remind him of who he wanted to be before life made him into who he had to be. The hours crawled by. I tried to distract myself with the art collection, with books, with anything that would keep me from imagining all the ways this could go wrong. Dusk approached, and still no word. Then I heard vehicles outside, doors slamming, voices. I ran to the foyer just as the front door opened. Lucas walked in, covered in dust and blood that I prayed wasn't his. Behind him, supported by 2 of his men, was a young woman, early 20s, terrified, but alive. "Donovan," Lucas called. "Come get your sister." Donovan appeared from somewhere in the house, and the reunion was immediate and tearful. The sister clung to her brother, sobbing, while Donovan thanked Lucas over and over. "Remember our agreement," Lucas said coldly. "You have 24 hours to leave the city. If I ever see you again, mercy is off the table." After they left, escorted by 2 of Lucas's men to ensure they actually departed, I approached him carefully. "Are you hurt?" "Not my blood," he assured me. "It went smoother than expected. They weren't anticipating us to move so fast. Who were they? Who's behind all this?" His expression darkened. "The Romano family. They've been trying to move into my territory for months. This was their play. Get into my vault, steal my financial records, use them to destroy my legitimate businesses, and force me out. But they failed. They failed. And now they'll face the consequences." He looked at me, and his eyes were haunted. "This is my life, Emma. Violence and betrayal and constant vigilance. It's not too late for you to walk away, go back to your normal life." I stepped closer, reaching up to wipe a smudge of dirt from his cheek. What if I don't want normal anymore? What if I want you? Consequences and all. You don't know what you're saying. I know exactly what I'm saying. You make me feel alive in a way I haven't felt in years. You make me brave. And when you look at me, I see who I could be. Someone stronger than the woman my ex-husband broke. Someone who doesn't play it safe. Emma. I'm not saying I understand your world, or that I'm ready to be part of it, but I'm saying don't send me away. Not yet. Let me choose when the time comes. He pulled me into his arms, holding me so tight I could barely breathe. You're going to be the death of me. You know that? Or the saving of you. We stood there in his blood-stained foyer, holding each other while his men moved around us with the efficiency of people who'd seen this all before. It should have been wrong. It should have felt dangerous. Instead, it felt like coming home. Over the next week, I became part of the strange ecosystem of Lucas's estate. I learned the rhythms of his world, the early morning meetings, the constant phone calls, the men who came and went with messages and reports. I also learned about Lucas himself. He was ruthless in business, but fair. He remembered the names of everyone who worked for him and asked about their families. He donated anonymously to schools in the neighborhood and made sure local businesses were protected from the more violent criminal elements. He was also surprisingly well-read, and we spent evenings in his library debating literature and art. He challenged my opinions, made me defend my positions, and occasionally conceded when I made a good point. You could have been anything, I told him one night over wine. A scholar, a businessman, anything you wanted. Why this? Because this was my inheritance, he said simply. My father built this empire, and when he died, it fell to me. I could have walked away, let it crumble, Let chaos fill the void. But I saw what that would mean. Innocent people caught in the crossfire, neighborhoods torn apart by war. So I chose to be what they needed, even if it cost me what I wanted. And what did you want? He looked at me with such naked longing it stole my breath. This. Nights spent talking about art with a beautiful woman who challenges me. A normal life where the worst decision I make is which painting to buy next. A family that doesn't involve guns and betrayal. It's not too late. It is, he interrupted gently. I made my choices. I've done things I can never take back. But meeting you, it's reminded me that there's still beauty in this world. Still goodness. You've reminded me of that. The Romano situation came to a head on a Tuesday. Lucas called me into his office, his expression grim. They've demanded a meeting. Neutral ground, just me and their boss. They want to negotiate territory. You're not going alone. I won't be. Marcus and a team will be positioned nearby. But Emma, if something goes wrong, nothing will go wrong. If it does, he continued as if I hadn't spoken, Marcus has instructions to get you somewhere safe. There's money set up for you, enough to start over wherever you want. Lucas, stop, you're coming back. He pulled me close, kissing me with an urgency that felt like goodbye. I need you to know, these past weeks with you have been the happiest of my life. Whatever happens, that's the truth. Then come back and have more happy weeks. Months. Years. I'll try. The wait was agony. I paced the library while Marcus maintained his post by the door. A solid presence that should have been reassuring, but only reminded me of what could go wrong. Hours passed. The sun set. Still no word. Then Marcus's phone rang. He answered, listened, and his face broke into a rare smile. They'll be back in 20 minutes. It's done. What's done? The Romanos agreed to peace terms. Lucas made them an offer they couldn't refuse. Partnership rather than war. Shared profits in exchange for territory concessions. They'll be allies now, not enemies. He negotiated peace? He's better at talking than people give him credit for. Always has been. When Lucas walked in, he looked exhausted but triumphant. I ran to him, not caring who saw, and threw my arms around him. You did it. You actually did it. I'm getting too old for wars, he murmured into my hair. Time to try something different. Time to be different. That night he took me to his private gallery, the one that held his mother's favorite pieces. We walked slowly through the space, and he told me about each painting, each memory. She would have liked you, he said. She always said the measure of a person wasn't in their circumstances, but in their choices. You've made nothing but brave choices since you came into my life. So have you. Mercy for Donovan, peace with the Romanos. Those weren't the choices of a typical crime boss. No, they were the choices of a man trying to be worthy of someone extraordinary. He led me to the center of the gallery, where moonlight streamed through a skylight, and dropped to one knee. My heart stopped. I know this is crazy, he said, pulling out a small velvet box. I know we've only known each other a few weeks. I know I have no right to ask you to tie your life to mine. But Emma, you've changed everything. You've reminded me that I'm more than the violence and the fear. With you, I see a future I never let myself imagine. He opened the box to reveal a ring, a sapphire, surrounded by diamonds, antique and beautiful. This was my mother's. She told my father that sapphires represented wisdom and good fortune. She wore it every day of their marriage. And I'm asking, begging, for you to wear it now. Marry me, Emma. Help me build something better than what I inherited. Help me be the man I see reflected in your eyes. Tears streamed down my face. This was insane. This was reckless. This was everything I'd never known I wanted. Yes, I whispered. Yes, 1,000 times yes. He slipped the ring onto my finger and stood, kissing me with a tenderness that made my soul ache. When we finally broke apart, he was smiling. Truly, genuinely smiling, in a way I'd never seen before. I love you, he said. I think I loved you from the moment you lectured me about mercy in my own office. I love you too, even though you're a crime boss with a vault and a small army. About that, he took my hand, leading me toward the door. I've been thinking. The legitimate businesses could use an art consultant. Someone to help me invest properly. Maybe even start a gallery that gives back to the community. Interested? Are you offering me a job? I'm offering you a partnership. In business and in life. We'll figure it out together, how to balance my world with the normal life we both want. It won't be easy. Nothing worth having ever is. We walked back to the main house hand in hand, and I caught sight of Marcus watching from a window. He nodded once, approval, maybe even blessing. A month later, I stood in Lucas's office while he made a call that would change everything. Mr. Romano, Lucas Ashford, I have a proposal for you. I listened as he outlined his vision. A coalition of the major families, rules that everyone would follow, resources dedicated to actually helping the communities they operated in, instead of just bleeding them dry. It was ambitious. It was probably impossible. But as I watched him negotiate, seeing the man he was becoming, I believed it could work. That evening, he announced our engagement publicly, not just to his organization, but to the legitimate business world he moved in. I stood beside him at a charity gala, wearing his mother's sapphire, and faced the society that would judge me for choosing this life. Ladies and gentlemen, Lucas said, his arm around my waist, I'd like you to meet my fiancée, Emma Richardson. She's an art appraiser of considerable talent, and she's agreed to help me establish a foundation dedicated to bringing art education to underserved communities. The applause was polite but cautious. These people knew what Lucas was, even if they pretended otherwise. But as the night wore on, as I talked about our vision for the foundation, I saw opinions shifting. On the drive home, I leaned against Lucas's shoulder, exhausted but happy. You know, I said, when I woke up that day with a concussion, I thought my life was over. And now I think it's just beginning. He kissed the top of my head. We'll make mistakes. There will be hard times. My past won't just disappear. I know, but we'll face it together. Together, he agreed. I like the sound of that. 6 months later, we were married in the gallery where he'd proposed, surrounded by the art his mother had loved and the family he'd chosen. Marcus stood as his best man, and my roommate, who'd taken some convincing that I wasn't being held hostage, served as my maid of honor. As we exchanged vows, I looked into Lucas's eyes and saw our future, complicated, challenging, but filled with a love neither of us had expected to find. Who knew, I whispered as we were pronounced husband and wife, that a concussion would lead to this? He laughed and kissed me. Best worst day of your life? Best day of my life, period. We left the gallery to find his entire organization waiting, hundreds of people who worked for Lucas, protected by him, loyal to him. They cheered as we appeared, and I realized this was my family now too. These people with their complicated lives and questionable choices, who'd welcomed me because Lucas loved me. That night, in the bedroom we now shared, Lucas held me close. Thank you, he murmured. For what? For seeing who I could be. For believing I could change. For choosing this life when you could have chosen safety. I turned in his arms to face him. You gave me something more valuable than safety. You gave me purpose, passion, and the courage to be extraordinary. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. We're going to build something amazing, Emma. The foundation, the peace between the families, maybe even a gallery or two. We'll make this city better. We will, I agreed. But right now, I just want to be here with you. So, we stayed there, wrapped in each other and the promise of everything we'd build together. A future neither of us had dared to dream of before 3 seconds changed everything. Because sometimes, the most dangerous thing you can do is open your heart to the person you least expect. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, that danger transforms into the greatest love of your life.